That's fair enough. I will call you Dragon from here on. Or my sweet dragon.
My sweet dragon. Please refer to me as my sweet dragon. Not just dragon. My sweet dragon.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, we're gonna start up here and not explain that joke at all. Up here on the top left-hand side of the map, the red Terran player from Team Liquid. He is Clem. My sweet.
The bottom right-hand side of the map, it is the blue Protoss player for Team Roddy. It is Goblin. My sweet Goblin.
My sweet Goblin. By the way, we love our wonderful producer, guys. She doesn't get a lot of attention and stuff, but she does a wonderful job. And she also has a very, very sweet-hearted way of talking about everyone.
Yeah. She just calls Ravi Dragon, which I think is better because
she's the first person, actually. First person in like my entire time in like StarCraft that has just referred to me as Dragon.
But I love it because fear has such a negative connotation, whereas dragon has such a positive connotation, you know? So she removes all the negative. She just calls you dragon. I'm like, whoa, like it sounds so powerful now. So I like it.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like the negative connotation because it like creates a dichotomy, right? Like, because then I appear, it's like, oh, it's like a kind of like negative name, but then I appear as like a really nice guy, but then you get to know me and you're like, oh no, he is called Fear for a reason. He is an asshat. I like that dichotomy. You know, it's like it's character. It's depth of
nobody
character.
that thinks that of you, Ravi. Like literally nobody. Has
Cass, you just don't know me well enough yet. You need to talk to Maynard and Zombie Grub and Pig. Like trust me, those three will tell you. Like, you go talk to Sal. If you go spend like one day in twitch.tv/Uppetry Zelda's chat and you just see the vile stuff I type to him, you'll start rethinking.
It's all in good fun, Ravi. Your intent has never read as malicious to me. That's why I call you my sweet dragon.
Aw, Paolo, you're too sweet and also too innocent. All right, so we do have a Stargate opening coming out over here from good old Gobbly-Goo. He is going to be doing something that very much so lives up to his team name, Team Roddy, and he absolutely is one of those Protoss players that really does love those Stargate openings. And actually, you know, speaking of the earlier matches from today, he actually really likes the Phoenix stuff as well.
Yeah, most definitely. He's very good with those. Those are going to be pretty good defensively a lot of the time against Hellion drops, which is exactly what Clem is doing. But of course, he's going to have to be in position. And much like Raynor, Clem is the type of player that will find angles and will have that extra APM, that those extra resources to kind of poke and prod and find those openings where other players may not. Not because, you know, they're not there, but rather because he'll be looking more for them.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a very, very important thing to keep an eye out for. Now, just that command center on the high ground, just really, really showing how much Clem is respecting the possibility of Goblin trying to get up in his own face, and that he is a very cheeky player oftentimes, but Hellions are just going to run straight across the map also after he's gone for this very, very fast opening into the factory and everything. Finds a couple of workers, and ooh, is he actually going to be able to get away with any of the Hellions? Does.
One of them will get punished. The angling from the Phoenix could have been a little bit better for the turn on that corner, but of course then Clem could have just run straight instead, so it works out. At the same time, this is exactly what I was talking about, right? Like Clem pokes forward. He knows that there's only one Stalker, picks off 3 probes. I still think that was a favorable trade for him. Also gets the scout on the Phoenix, so the Phoenix are now revealed. He's much less likely to make a medevac follow-up or anything like that and run headfirst onto those. Instead, he will just get ready for the Phoenixes on defense with a Viking, a Cyclone, and Marines.
Yeah, and that is a really, really nice setup to help deal with the Phoenix, given that you are somewhat into position. And usually you don't actually end up seeing the Phoenix getting too active until there's at least 3, but oftentimes like 5 Phoenix, because that is a bit more of a magic number where you're starting to deal the damage quickly and you can do the quick subsequent lift ups on like SCVs or Marines and stuff. So he has a little bit more time before he has to really, really start being attentive to where he's positioning his units. But I want to note, it is going to be that Twilight Council follow-up over here. Goblin isn't going too crazy on the Stargate play or anything. He is just going up for that one Stargate Phoenix production and playing it out into, looks like charge actually pretty quickly.
Yeah, but it has to be noted as well. I mean, Clem, normally an aggressive player, he would have already poked a few times, but knowing that it's Phoenix, one of the best defensive units early on for Protoss in this matchup, He's just kind of sat back. But the Cyclone's going to get picked up for free, and that's a really nice opening for Goblin here. Especially when Clem is planning to push out and push into him. So that's a really nice start to things. One of them does get taken down.
Yeah, I was wondering for a moment if the Cyclone and the Vikings were getting too far ahead of the Marines. This is exactly what I was afraid of there for Clem. And now we end up seeing good micro there from Goblin. Keeps the weakened Phoenix alive as well. He hasn't lost any units so far. Yeah, he lost the one Adept, basically, and a few of the probes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm surprised. If it was any other player, I'd be questioning why the tank hasn't sieged up, because I think it would help a lot to zone up those stalkers and then the Marines maybe stand a chance against the Phoenix. But he didn't deem it appropriate, and instead he's going to lose a lot of his units, actually, including the tank, as Goblin still has a lot of energy there available. Actually doesn't pick off the tank, a little bit surprising there. Now there it goes, as the stalkers were doing most of it, and Goblin in a dominant position now.
I mean, this is brutal. This is really, really tough. Stim is still a decent ways away. Yeah, it looks like it's maybe 40 or 50% of the way finished, almost 60. But that takes such a long time. That last 40% is going to be quite a bit of time where the Stalkers and the Phoenix can continue to just bully him at the front lines.
Yeah, the Widow Mines are going to help a little bit against that. But at the same time, I mean, Clem has been kind of hard reset, right? That was an attack that was meant to do something offensively to kill units, maybe even some economy, punish a third, and instead the entire army gets punished. This is still Clem we're talking about, so we can't just yet count him out like we might any other player in this position.
As a really, really good point. Clem is absolutely the king of making magic happen with just whatever units he has available and being, you know, the epitome of Terran, right? Being a bit scrappy here and there. Now, Widow Mine's getting picked off, though. The Phoenix coming on in, lifting up Marine after Marine. As soon as they feel like they don't have any lift-ups left over, they go after the medevacs. No more healing after those stims. And even though it looks like Clem will hold on over here, he's lost so many workers.
Quite a few indeed. 19 worker advantage there for Goblin. More Widow Mines will make their way to the front. Clem even considering chasing, but I mean, he has been once again reset, and this is wonderful for Goblin, who is now saturating his third. He is sitting there comfortably. He is now continuing the worker production, which I love to see at this stage in the game, right? Like, he doesn't want to push the issue to just make only units and try to end the game. That is where things could backfire. Clem does not have a third command center, so even just defending, it's not going to be enough.
That is going to be very, very tough. He's really just going to need like the most magnificent Widow Mine hits ever to make this work. And I mean, I actually do like that decision of just doubling down really, really hard on Widow Mines, because yeah, if there is a world where, let's say, all of the Phoenix just get some really bad hits and they all run to the Widow Mines or something, the Zealots all get cleaned up because they drag into the Phoenix or something with the Widow Mine shots, there is actually some potential here, but
I mean, that was pretty good. A lot of the Zealots got taken down. And yeah, I completely agree with you. Zealots are units that are kind of small in size, so they tend to clump up. They also charge on forward, very difficult to micro. Phoenix naturally also clump up, so Widow Mines are a great choice from Clem, because there is that opening for something to go wrong for Goblin. But I mean, there is a lot of Phoenix. None of them die to the Widow Mines, and this is just not enough from the side of Clem. He's trying to make some pseudo wall-offs there with supply depots, and the Widow Mines are helping as much as they can, but Clem or Goblin just has way more than Clem does.
Yeah, and I know that this will look a lot like, oh my god, he's just moving the Zealots. There's so much control going in over here for Goblin. It's the fact that he is not losing many of his Phoenix in all these trades, that he is being very attentive and pulling them back and making sure the Widow Mines aren't hitting the clump of his Phoenix, and that he is segmenting off like the section of his Zealots to go absorb some of those shots and buffer. Because if he loses, like, instead of losing all those Zealots, if he lost a bunch of his Phoenix if the Zealots stayed alive, I actually think that Goblin would be in a pretty rough spot, right? Or like, not a rough spot, but he would have given up a lot of his advantage. Keeping the Phoenix alive, but losing the Zealots is perfectly fine, because he's still just maintaining so much control right now. Yeah,
those medevacs, though, are going to get chased back. One of them will get taken down. Clem did manage to sneak out with one medevac full of units, and you know, he can be pretty dangerous with those, but these Phoenixes are just having free reign.
No Marines!
The Widow Mines are trying, yeah, because they were sent across the map, and I can't blame them for that. I would love to see maybe a turret here. That position has been super exploited so far, and I wouldn't mind a recall either from Goblin to deal with this, just to make sure that he shuts it down. Instead, he's going to pull back with the entire fleet of Phoenix. I think it's going to get there a little bit late, because the Zealots will have already cleaned up, so he will just be chasing this medevac instead. And I mean, that works. I think that's the right thing just to defend right now because he has such a dominant position.
Yeah, and keep in mind, GG, Goblin. My God, the man who is absolutely killing it in this first game. Literally against arguably one of the best European players we have right now. Arguably one of the best players in StarCraft we have right now.
Yeah, on the back of some mistakes from Clem, though, it should be pointed out, and we did point them out. You very accurately pointed out that some of his units were a little bit too far forward. 2 Cyclones he lost for free, basically, just by not having them with his army, right? And we were talking about how Clem capitalizes on those moments, how Clem is actively checking. Well, Goblin was the one who capitalized. He was actively checking. He was out on the map. He had his Phoenix in position to do those punishes. And you remove 2 Cyclones from the initial push. I mean, your initial push is just not going to work, right? So unfortunate for Clem, but amazing job by Goblin capitalizing and keeping up the pressure as well.
Yeah, very, very well done. And that is going to be very nice for Goblin. I think that Clem, he has worked a lot on this. And I think that this is actually one of the biggest changes we've seen from him as a player this last year is that he used to be extremely momentum based. And I think he is still a momentum based player. But one of the problems he used to suffer from that I think he's shored up a lot, is going to be tested over here in this next game. But he used to be one of the players that would be unbelievably good when he was winning, but if he lost in the kind of like early on and had his momentum halted, he would actually just start to falter in like the subsequent games. I think he's gotten a lot better about that. This is one of the core like narratives I think of 2021 is Clem becoming a more stable player. But again, this is very much so going to be one of those moments he has to prove that of himself.
Yeah, a lot of the time Clem seemed to me over eager, right? Where he is just willing to attack nonstop and stuff like that, regardless of what's going on in the game. And just sometimes that would work because of his multitasking. Last game, it wasn't a problem of being over eager, at least in my eyes, right? Like, because he was actually very smart. He identified the Phoenix. He then decided not to attack until he had all the tools, until he was well defended against the Phoenix. The Phoenix didn't do anything on offense for Goblin. It was just mispositioning of those 2 Cyclones moving in the front. So let's see if he can do better on that regard. I will wager that he can. In the top left-hand side for Team Liquid, it is the prodigy Clem and the prophecy.
And down here in the bottom right-hand side of the map, we have the blue Protoss player from Team Roddy. Get your Roddy emotes out in the chat. He is Gobble 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 Goblin. Wow. I'm, at first I was really surprised. And then, you know what I thought, Cats, is I thought about it for like 10 seconds after that game. I was like, oh, no, wait. Goblin said he was in really bad form. So that's, of course, why he's up 1-0 now. Like, that, it makes sense, actually. Yeah.
I mean, your experience pays off as per usual, Ravi. And,
my experience handling players as someone who's never owned a team or been a player myself. Yeah.
It works out. I mean, you hang out with Neeb a bunch, and that's kind of been how Neeb works, right? Like if he says he's not that good, then
it's not stalking, but his carpet really does fit like the living room and everything. Like, recently threw up some new like paintings on the wall. Looks really good. Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Well, okay. Let me ask you this, Cats. If Goblin, and I think Goblin, he's willing to like mix things up and everything, but I think that style in that last game is very much his style, like that he likes to go for. If we see something similar like that again, what would you want to see out of Clem?
I think Clem did everything right except for the move out. Really, I don't know if not sieging the tank was a mistake or not. Again, if it was any other player, I'd be like siege the tank because the stalkers are gonna chase you, right? Like, but on the retreat, I mean. But since it's Clem, maybe he knows something. And other than that, it was just the Cyclones that he lost. But I actually loved the composure of Clem in last game. And I'm giving him props in spite of the loss because he was very good at sitting back. He was very good at identifying what was coming. He was very good at not taking any damage whatsoever from the Phoenix until his move out. And all that went wrong there was the Cyclones at the front.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good way of putting it. And that is one thing that if you're a really, really strong player, you can definitely try and count on. But I do want to quickly just really quickly mention, I looked at the Twitch chat poll for like people betting points and everything. It was 91% in favor of Clem that last game. So a lot of points lost right there. F's in the chat for all the people who are now dead broke.
Yeah, they're typing their go emotes and voting for Clem at the same time. Only the few believers, the few true believers got rewarded there.
All right, well, we got a blink opening coming out over here for Goblin, so it's not actually going to be the Phoenix opening yet again. Now, Clem is doing a very, very interesting little move out over here, but I think that Goblin going for those stalkers and anything early on, not cutting any corners, but going for like a depths or sentries or anything, he's going to have some micro potential here to pick these off, but does have to be careful with his probes, has to do a lot of running around for a little bit.
Yeah, but he runs around preemptively, which is nice for him. He will end up losing 4 probes. There's 3 probes only, actually, which is pretty decent. The 2 more Marines from Clem completely unexpected. These probes might be looking to fight. No, they're just going to continue to retreat. And actually, another one might just go down as it's a total of 5. And the last stalker does survive. I like the preemptive micro and thinking forward from Clem, knowing to move his probes, but it just wasn't enough. And yeah, I think it's more or less a wash.
This gets really weird now in my mind, Cats, because here's the thing. You trade out all those Marines and you do actually kill a decent number of workers. A Protoss player normally wants to be a bit ahead in workers at this point in the game, not, relatively even. But Goblin was already going for a 4-gate blink attack, which is, it's not like committed. This is an all-in, but this is a pretty aggressive attack. You are looking to get damage done, but he's also up against a 3-Rex after having but Clem has lost like a lot of those early Marines. So I'm really curious how this plays out and if this is really just going to come down to the micro, which, I will never complain about a game coming down to the micro.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is a really difficult situation to read for sure, right? Because it's all about this attack from Goblin. And from that perspective, having lost more army, Clem is at a small disadvantage, but he is well defended. It is romanticized. It's not going to be particularly easy, I think, to breach. The Observer is in a good position, but so is Clem with a lot of Marauders already, expecting this perhaps. If we look at resources lost before this starts, it actually greatly favors the side of Goblin, right? Like it was like something like 475 to 250. The problem is that those 250 are 5 probes, so if he doesn't end the game here, he's going to be at a disadvantage relative to the position that he would be in otherwise.
Wow, nice pick off on the Observer over there from Clem. And he's continuing to chase these Stalkers who do have Blink off of cooldown again. Remember that when you go for 3-Racks, you're delaying your starport. So these stims that Clem is doing to chase this army so far out is actually a bit costly. And Goblin is looking to force out yet another stim. He's trying to take a couple of trades over here as Clem absolutely refuses to stim up, but he's lost every single one of the Marines in that army. Just the Marauders left over. I have to say, Goblin is actually, even like this crazy situation, I think microing and playing this out really well.
Yeah, extremely good. I mean, he mostly just traded shields for all of the Marines. If we look at the resources lost up now, Goblin has lost an extra 150 resources and killed an extra like 700 something resources. So things are looking amazing. He's actually going to be able to kill a bunker as well. The tank is not sieged for Clem. He's going to have to siege at the ramp. I'm not even sure if that's the right position to siege, or if Goblin can even just snipe it from the low ground. Because if you siege your tank at the ramp, you want to make it so that it's far enough up the ramp that you can't see it from the low ground. I'm not sure if that's the case here. And now Goblin is looking for an attack potential here, but Clem looking like a hawk for that Observer is still not going to be enough. There's a War Prism anyway, and now forced to pull SCVs, but it's a good force in a certain way. Isn't able to capitalize though before the blink is on cooldown.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of upselling, like, I think Goblin's doing a really good job with the trades and everything, but remember, he is behind in workers. Even with his third base and stuff coming on up, like, he really did want to get something done there. And now one of the biggest advantages that you get in this situation, which is my opponent went for 3-Racks, they don't have a starport, all these stims are costly. That's about to be solved with the medevacs already coming out soon. These trades are going to get a lot worse for Goblin very, very shortly. And you look at back home at his tech, he's got the Twilight Council and a Robo. He doesn't have anything besides, I guess, added on since this push started, except for charge, basically, and now he's adding on a single forge. This gets really dicey. I don't know if he's done enough damage.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Is he aware of the army that moved out from Clem? I think that he might be because of the Observer, but I'm not sure if it was in position already. And yeah, there is the recall, so he is perfectly aware, I think. And yeah, I'm completely with you. I mean, those 5 workers killed earlier, they would have mined so much more money up until now, right? So even though the resources lost tells the story that Goblin has been trading very efficiently, and he has to a good degree. Having lost workers early on, they would have more than paid for themselves and maybe even made for this difference up until now, and that's a huge pickup from Goblin, however, and that is gonna really put a stall to things from the side of Clem, whose army is already weakened. I think another blink forward will be in. Yeah, it is, and this is wonderful.
This is amazingly well done over here by Goblin, catching Clem as he was still rallying his units forward. And like you were saying, so much of this army is still in the orange and the red. The medevacs are out, but Clem didn't have the time to sit back and heal up. He knew that it was go time to try and push across the map and do something. And his units were they just couldn't afford that extra stim right there. And now the medevacs getting picked off. Now we have 2 medevacs now that have popped out. I love this wall in over here for Clem. It's going to complicate things.
Yeah, but at the same time, the units move out of the wall up, and so the Zealots do get a decent chunk of surface area to work off of. But I mean, Clem is just so good. The SCV pool will actually work. I can't believe that he killed that entire army with so little. But yeah, this pseudo wall up that he made, I mean, absolutely brilliant. It's exactly what he needed to defend there, and he's gonna be able to, and even pull ahead in supply somehow, some way. He's a little bit behind in workers now, and doesn't have a third. I don't think he started one even. So at some point, it has to be okay for Goblin to just be like, okay, let's just chill back. I'm not gonna break it.
He is morphing in some Archons right now, which might be found out, but the War Prism should be able to pick them up now. And oh god, Clem already, did he just see the Observer again? How many Observers has he killed this game now? He's killed 4 Observers. Definitely not too bad at shutting down some of those that map vision there from Goblin. But Goblin is finally heading back like you were kind of asking for. And wow, Goblin has taken a 4th base before Clem has made a 3rd. I think at best Clem is going to go Nomad Terran and make his main base his 3rd base. But this is really ballsy for Goblin to do right now.
Yeah, for sure. At the same time, it forces Clem to be proactive on the map, and he does have a lot of Zealots unutilized. So if Clem pushes out, that could be the type of move that he's waiting for, right? Like the type of move where Goblin can actually win a fight, and if he wins the next fight, he will win the game. So it offers him a win condition, and it kind of forces Clem to go for it to some degree. So let's see if that's going to be enough.
I think in theory, I like that. But he's on 40 workers, and he's not going to get advantage from that 4th base. Like, even after it finishes, it's going to take a long time for that to help out. He has another High Templar worked in. Even a feedback on these medevacs. Remember, there's not that many. Can help out. Goes to the feedback. Ends up having to pull back. He doesn't have any shield batteries or anything to fall back to. Guardian Shield going to help out quite a bit over here. Widowmine 1 gets picked off before it can do a whole lot. The Siege up on the other side. A good blink over from Goblin is able to help deal with that, but he ends up getting pushed back, and now he's starting to try and warp in Zealots desperately to push this back.
Yeah, this is well done so far, but he has to be careful not to chase too far. I think there will be a Guardian Shield available soon. There is no shield battery like you were mentioning, and this is a little bit troublesome. The Force Shield is instead utilized. Not sure if I'm the biggest fan of that. The Stalkers are trying to trade with Marauders, which doesn't sound good on paper, but these Marauders are mostly weakened. Oh, the Widowmine move! Good blink forward, or good blink back to kind of avoid that. And again, if Goblin holds, everything that you're saying is true, Ravi. Like, he's not going to be able to use that base other than to produce probes for a little while, but Clem doesn't necessarily know that. So in Clem's mind, he's probably pretty all in here, and I wouldn't blame him for GGing if he can actually break through.
Yeah, I think that's a very reasonable point. Look at how stemmed up this army is, though. Oh my god, I think that Goblin just being able to utilize these Stalkers so well, the Blink Micro, he might need to pull some of the probes away, but this army, it just hasn't been given time to heal up, but now there are enough medevacs. I think every single time Goblin backs off even a little bit, this army is actually heading back fuller and fuller on hit points. Clem is making magic happen.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, he's pulled ahead in supply. Again, if Goblin wins, yeah, he can kind of lose this, but with this base being gone, even if Clem doesn't actually kill Goblin, he will definitely not leave the game. So that was kind of like what I was hoping for, was a big confusion on the side of Clem and a preemptive Idra-like GG for Goblin to take the 300 IQ win, but
drop to the main.
It's looking more and more difficult.
This is definitely the most problematic part about losing that 3rd base location, is that just the drop to the main base is super annoying to deal with. Has to continue to kite away from that Archon, though. If that Archon gets a shot off, it's going to hit an entire bio and also all of the medevacs. So Clem picks up, lifts out And now we have a really weird situation where Goblin is actually down in workers, but has a third base. And he's gonna tap out. Oh, wait. Okay, I have to check something. Did he scout the third base location?
He must have, but yeah, I don't know.
I think
he was pretty low on workers.
Okay, he had an observer there. I wonder if he saw the third base location and thought it was a new third base, not like the main base. But yeah, he was already in a bad spot. I don't want to like make it sound like no, Goblin had that game won. Nothing like that.
No, for sure not.
Yeah.
But to your point, I think that if he knew for sure that it was the main CC that floated over, he might have at least stayed in the game, right? Like, because then you think maybe you have a chance. So, but yeah, he was pretty far behind at that point. Clem making some magic happen. I mean, that eBay defensively, the prompt SCV pool, those things are the ones that saved his life. Because if those armies clash out in the open, there is just absolutely 0% chance that Clem can hold off. But with the chokes helping and all of the zealots going through those chokes, I mean, at least if some of those zealots have been sectioned off to kill SCVs or something, or try to surround the army from behind, that might have been enough for Goblin. Instead, he loses all of those zealots for free, and the game is kind of reset from there. Goblin still had very good openings, had some very good catches when Clem was moving out consistently now, right? Like those move outs from Clem, they have been taxed from Goblin twice in a row now in 2 different games. So we'll see if that is the opening that he looks for. That is definitely a way to win. But yeah, it wasn't enough this time around.
That's actually a really good point. And maybe that is just one of the openings that Clem has in his gameplay, where he is one of the players who will be like, all right, here's the time to move out. And he kind of has that limbo line of units moving across the map. Clem is a very fast player in so many different ways, but that might be one of the kind of resource intensive things that he is not paying as much attention to. He's not like clumping up his army and going as this big group and, you know, watching as it goes across the map. He kind of is like, all right, let me move it to outside their base and then I'll start paying attention to it. And yeah, I think that's a lot of the reason why Goblin's been able to find those great trades in the early engagements. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, most definitely agree. And I think that the cooler thing also about that type of engagement is that Clem is always hitting very fast, right? Like he hits as fast as possible. That means conga line also. That means load up your tanks into the medevac so that you can position them faster than players would otherwise. So he's hitting you 10 seconds earlier than most other pros. And you know, if you are grouping up and if you don't have your tanks loaded to easily maneuver and siege them where you want, those are details that he usually utilizes to his favor that Goblin is actually exploiting. So it's really cool to see.
Yeah,
and
I will just one final note, man. If there was at that last engagement, if there was one shield battery, cats. If there was one shield battery instead of like one, oh god. Okay, well guys, we get to move into game 3, so I'm not even gonna be upset. I'm not even gonna complain because this has been a great series so far. We're starting up here in the top right-hand corner of the map, top of the red Terran player from Team Liquid. He is Clem.
Lamb. Where's the bear with the tongue sticking out?
The bear with
I didn't see it. His decal usually shows up. And in the bottom left-hand side for Team Roddy, it is Goblin, the Croatian Pope.
Wouldn't that mean if Clem has like a bear with fangs and stuff, Goblin is like the gobble gobble, he's like a turkey?
What?
What?
No.
Goblin, gobble gobble? No?
I get it. I definitely get it.
That would give a distinct advantage to Clem as like the bear. But you know what they say? Turkeys stick together. Turkeys fly together?
Do they? Do turkeys even fly? I guess
it was a mighty it was like an 8th level joke where 8th level stupidity, I want to be clear, where it was like referencing the Mighty Ducks, but then getting it wrong and not saying ducks fly together. It was supposed to be turkeys fly together. It sounds really good now that I'm explaining my joke. I'm glad that we had this discussion. There's a concussive shell rush coming out over here from Clem.
Okay, Ravi. And in the side of Goblin, we're gonna have another Stargate. I wouldn't be surprised to see Phoenixes yet again. Like you said, that is kind of his staple move. Is the Team Roddy special, I suppose. So we'll see if it pays off this time around.
Imagine he does something like that's a little bit crazier that I've only seen a few other Protoss players go for in like this matchup, and he goes for Obliterate first. is up against the Concussive Shell Marauder. He just kills everything. Oh man, that'd be beautiful. But no, he's gonna be up against the Phoenix, and the Phoenix can. It kind of gets weird in this situation. Phoenix are actually very good for helping out with early game, like low unit defenses, because they can just literally disable like 33% of your army, right? They just do a lift up and 33% of your army is gone. But they also don't add damage. So this is going to be an interesting little trait here.
Yeah, there's also the shield battery. As soon as Clem is made aware of the shield battery, just from seeing the, the little line thing, whatever you would, the beam, the healing beam, he's going to back away. So I'm not sure if Goblin was trying not to give it away, right? But by positioning his stalkers a little bit further up, I think that he even positioned his stalkers a little bit even further up, and then just went back to heal. Then there would have been an opening for the Phoenix to come in and kill a Marauder or something on the retreat. Instead chooses not to reveal those Phoenixes, which is good. But at the same time, on the side of Clem, we were talking about this in the previous series, in the previous TVP that we were watching, whichever one that was. 3 racks, actually pretty good against Phoenix openers.
Yeah, it definitely can be. I think you're thinking about DNS Soul, I imagine. But yeah. Well, we're going to see the Phoenix just continue to come out in larger and larger numbers over here. Stalkers continue to kind of poke around, and we already see, oh, wow, look at the timing of this SCV over here from Clem. Spots out the probe heading over to the third base. That's going to shore up his mind and say, all right, I know that I saw 2 Stalkers out pretty quickly and everything, but hadn't really seen the Phoenix. Now he's like, okay, you're taking a third base at least. I know it's not some crazy all-in.
Yes, indeed. So we'll see. I mean, the numbers are still going to be there for Clem, but at the same time, I think he wants to be on the other side of the map sooner rather than later. I'm not completely sure on that, but I think that defensively, these Marines do not have as much mobility, obviously, as, say, a Cyclone or a Viking would. So the Phoenixes can still very much outmaneuver them defensively, right? If Goblin goes on the other side of the map and starts picking SCVs, it's going to be very difficult for Clem not to stim and pick off stuff. Exactly like this. The Phoenixes are now here. They're going to start taxing Clem. Clem has to move across the map and try to make something happen. He can easily, I think, however, get a cancel on that third base, simply because these Phoenixes are a great investment and they're not going to ever want to fly into those very clumped up Marines.
Yeah, and I actually think that's a great decision from Clem to just say, all right, like, Phoenix, you want to go camp by production a little bit? That's fine. I'm going to get to your base as fast as possible over here. I'm not going to sacrifice a bunch of time trying to push back the Phoenix or anything. And he's also doing a good job of keeping most of his units in his actual army together, pretty closely, tightly knit. Charge not done yet.
About to finish, but it's about to finish. I think he could maybe defend. He's backing away. Clem thinks he can chase, but maybe there's a turnaround moment here for a Goblin with the Zealots and the Phoenix. Almost want him to lead with the Phoenix here. He's instead gonna overcharge his battery. He hasn't canceled the third yet. Now on the chase is Goblin. Clem realizes by the position and by the posturing of Goblin that he must have finished charge. And with the Spider sense that like, I guess he has an X-Men shirt right now. He should be wearing the Spider-Man version of the Team Liquid jersey, because that was just a brilliant pull out from Clem.
Really, really well done there. We are going to end up seeing now, finally, third command center being plopped on down. Phoenix are going to come immediately over, spot it out, and try and delay it as much as possible. Goblin going to try and find tidbits of damage, as he does still have Phoenix being produced. He's actually not done with just the 8 Phoenix that are out. He's coming up to a 9th and everything, adding on the Robo, and really leaning into just this. I'm on Team Roddy, therefore I am like legally required to make Phoenix.
Yeah, at least 1 per production cycle, and so we see that he is continuing to do exactly that. He's gonna get some very nice pickoffs here, and I mean, the game, if we look at resources lost, pretty dead even. If we look at workers, just about what you would expect. There is not really a third CC, or there is a third CC this time around on the way for Clem. So in spite of unfavorable openings matching up against each other with the Phoenixes against the 3 racks, I think that Goblin has managed to make a strong game out of this. And also in spite of the brilliance of Clem to pull out before his army got completely punished by charge finishing, right? Like he has done good, Goblin. I think this is an open game still. Look at this.
I think so. Oh, very bold. Oh, good micro though. Keeping all of his Phoenix alive, not losing any of them. Okay, finally loses one of them. Nice. But really, really nicely done for how many Marines he just picked off. And if he dives even further back. Okay, no, not that way. Okay. All right, it's safe. You didn't lose anything. We're good.
Yeah, it angered the Marauders. They stimmed for no reason, pretty much. They're going to go to the watchtower.
Calculated.
Yeah. but there's a lot of charge slots, and this looks actually pretty good for Goblin if he can find a good concave, but instead in a conga line, that's not the way you want to do it. Clem will identify that, and Goblin will get taxed instead on the retreat, as those Marines, I mean, there is also the tax of the stim, right? So it's not for nothing, but a few Zealots do go down. There is mines also here, which could backfire against the Phoenixes as well.
One of the favorite moves for Protoss players, many of Protoss, is to charge in with the charge lots and then use the Phoenix to drag in the mines onto the Bioforce, which we'll see if Goblin decides to try to utilize. He is running in with the Phoenix, so diving in, and charge lots actually absorb most of the Widow Mine hits. And we're starting to see that Clem, he is reinforcing with a lot of units, and Goblin really needs another round of reinforcements.
Or something to pull this army in place. I'm not sure if force fields are the way, just because they're so expensive. But something, I don't know. It still looks like Goblin has enough here, and the Phoenixes are actually hard punishing the medevacs on retreat. There is no more mines to anchor for Clem. He's gonna be forced to pull SCVs once again. He can turn around, I think, on this ramp, and he's kind of turning around and kind of stutter stepping with the SCVs there too. So they're helping absorb. You can see a lot of those SCVs in the yellow, the red, and orange. And successful defense for now.
Oh my god, sorry. The one sentry killed me at the very end. It's just I'm here to fight too.
Yeah. I was talking about a sentry. I'm happy to see the sentry. Yeah, poor sentry though. Yeah.
I was really amazed like how stimmed up the army for Clem was, because I know that he had stimmed a few times in the earlier parts of the fight and stuff, but his army got so low that really allowed, like you were saying, like the charge lots to just start one-shotting a bunch of these Marines. Even the Marauders starting to get pretty low. And it was before all the medevacs had actually been picked off by the Phoenix. So it felt like, a really, really tough spot there. A surprisingly rough spot for Clem after all of that.
Yeah, I mean, very good holds from Goblin. I think that the weird part for me is that, I don't know, like, because Clem knows that there is a lot of charge lots, right? Like, when Clem makes a decision to move out, I'm thinking, okay, he probably knows that he can take on this charge lot army, but there was only very few Widow Mines. Maybe he wasn't expecting Goblin to be as good as he was about picking those Widow Mines up on defense with the Phoenixes or something, but we were talking about Clem being overeager, and I can't help but to think that this is more overeagerness on his part, and he's actually gonna get flanked by a Clem gigantic army, and this is looking pretty good now with the Colossus being revealed as well. The Phoenix are gonna fly on top of the army. Clem with brilliant micro there to kind of split against his own Widow Mines.
Yeah, does a nice job of microing against his own Widow Mines, and also picks off a majority of the Phoenix. Phoenix are still being produced over here for Goblin, so he is still getting ready to make more and more of these. We are seeing that Goblin is not done yet, though. He wants to continue charging on forward, and literally charging on forward. His Zealots all just lost all their shields, though. He may want to consider backing up right now, at least until another round of reinforcements comes in. All right, that's a round of reinforcements. Yeah, that is a round of reinforcements. He has to be careful of those chokes that have punished him in the series already. That is so many Marauders from Clem, but hey, forcing stims, pretty good. There's not unlimited energy on those medevacs, and there's not very many medevacs themselves, because a lot of them have been taken down throughout the game by those Phoenixes. Yeah. So I think this is pretty good by both players, really. But I like it for Goblin for this moment. I mean, he is being very patient. I just don't know what the next transition is. I don't know what else he adds. He added one extra Colossus. He's getting Blink. I'm not sure what that does. I think this is where I'm getting a little bit worried, because a lot of this game, don't get me wrong, a lot of this game, Goblin has actually been down in upgrades, and he still made a lot of magic happen. But now it's going to be 2-2 versus 1-1. As Goblin's 1-1 finishes, Clem is already getting his 2-2 up. But ghosts are being added in, and this entire army is outside of the Colossus. This entire army is very heavily reliant on not getting EMP'd. The Zealots have to buy a lot of space. The Phoenix don't want to get EMP'd. Like, this is a really, really tough fight in a minute or so. Yeah, and that's why Goblin is trying to make something happen, I think. And this base is technically open, but Clem has been so good at hiding towards the chokes and prepositioning at the chokes at the same time. His army is getting really red. I think that Goblin can push the issue here. I think that he can start sieging essentially with this Colossus. I wouldn't mind for the Colossus to be a little bit positioned a little bit further forward, trying to hit that bio, because a lot of the problem is this, right? Like, the Zealots go forward, then they get taken down, then they retreat before the Colossus really start firing. But hey, this is pretty great. I mean, the base was it taken down completely? I think it was. Yeah, I think during the red. Yeah, Clem is just stimmed up to death. It's like you were saying before. The medevacs, I mean, there's 0 medevacs on the map. And remember, Clem didn't just, you know, stop or just lose his medevacs. He stopped producing them because he was making all the Vikings to deal with this big swell of Colossus. The Phoenix are actually still alive as well. So after those Vikings get taken care of, any medevacs he makes are also going to get taken care of. He still hasn't been able to heal up.
I think he's doing it. I mean, I think he's done it, to be honest. But it is Clem, so you know it's always dangerous to make a statement like this. But he is 40 supply ahead. He has everything. Clem is trying to rush through the chokes. GG.
GG. Goblin takes it 2-1. Upsets arguably one of the best players in Europe, if not